Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture, the show where we discuss science, technology and culture in its myriad of forms. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. We're here to crack the nuclear codes today. How are we today, Steve?
That's it. I'm good, thanks, Ben. Bit cold, but good.
Yeah, absolutely. Had this fantastic story that I came across this week, and I almost can't believe it. I still don't know if I believe it or not, but obviously it's must be the case. But the Pentagon is still using 70s era computing systems that require floppy disks, which essentially, in broad terms means if you want to launch a nuclear missile, all you need is a floppy disk to get it going. I'm sure there's a bit more involved. And also in that story, there were also discussions around how other US government departments are using very legacy systems, even some as far back as the 1950s. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess is what maybe they're saying. But at least they won't have any issues with, hackers cracking it, because it's probably nowhere close to being online.
Well, and even physical threat. I mean, even if you get one of those discs, you'd probably be pretty lucky if you still had a drive that could read them.
Yeah, and they're talking about upwards of $60 billion a year on maintenance charges for all of these out-of-date technologies. Like, it's incredible. I can only imagine what these repairmen and engineers must be thinking when they walk into these places and and see all of this out-of-date stuff.
Well, that's it. And, they're in their own world. And if you think when they had these systems built, and they're probably bespoke systems built in the 1970s with leading technology, then you probably find us all HP and IBM and all that sort of stuff, souped up with special, code and interfaces, and it's probably very secure. But obviously, in a modern age where a games designer can probably do all the software that's required for F-35 Raptor, so you can play a simulation on a PlayStation or an Xbox. It's hard to believe that the actual system's being used, 40 or 50 years old.
But it's the whole floppy disk thing that really concerns me, because that was like my first port of entry for storage, I guess, on a computer. The very first computer I had didn't actually come with a hard drive. It was just a keyboard and a monitor, and it ran solely on floppy disks, and they failed all the time. So, they're about to punch up, to launch the nuclear weapons, and then they get a read error when they're punching in those floppy disks. It's scary to think about.
I can imagine Steve Jobs walking in there just doing his nut when he's still got floppy disks.
You're doing it all wrong. Obviously, with some choice words in the middle there. Fascinating thing. I'll have to put that link up to that story during the week. But a good place to start, I think. We're going to transition in a minute to almost the entire opposite end of that. But just the image of a bank of really old computers, the magnetic tape reels, and then the floppy disks and all of that. They really need to sort of bring it up with the times, and even if they can still make a standalone system, I'm sure, but something that's a bit more robust.
Well, you wonder, with all the security clearances and checks and balances that they need, it must be a nightmare trying to design any software or even any hardware in there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, as I've just alluded to there, we're going to switch now to the other end of the spectrum, which is IBM and its work with artificial intelligence. I think we touched a little bit on this last week, Watson being the main play here. And we'll just start with the ads that IBM was running with Ridley Scott and Carrie Fisher, which were really good. But I think I think it was actually a good tactical play on IBM's part. I guess they have to explain the role of what this artificial intelligence is supposed to be for. And I guess we've been brought up, a lot of people, I guess their own real familiarity with it would probably be movies like Terminator, etc., where with the machines turning against us and all that. But getting two icons of science fiction, particularly Ridley Scott, I think, because he obviously has a lot of thoughts, and he's already put a lot of images on screen that sort of relate to this sort of thing. So having him in there is, I thought, important in terms of a public relations type thing, if we can start there.
Yeah, well, I think if you watch the ads, it's perfectly summed up. They're very nicely choreographed and scripted. I'm not sure, even though you can have that Watson interface, I'm not sure 100% that you could actually have a conversation the way Watson does with Ridley Scott. However, I've used, I guess, the software function of Watson. It's immensely powerful, powerful. So who would have thought that when IBM said we're not doing hardware anymore, I didn't know what they were going to do. I thought they were going to try and do Warp OS 3. But they've, they went and did Deep Blue, and they beat first human at Grandmaster at chess in '97, Kasparov. And now, they've got Watson, and it's a very powerful computer. I've fed data in there, and basically I didn't have enough data. I could have done, it did it so quickly, it pulled out things that it saw. So I fed in all the Melbourne Cup data historically forever, and it told me the number most likely to win in seconds, and it told me barrier number and all these things that probably weren't that useful because I hadn't set it up properly, but you could see how powerful it was. And it does have voice recognition, and it can talk and converse as it does with Ridley Scott. However, I'm not quite so sure, but he makes the point that I hope you're going to use this power for good, and IBM, or Watson I should say, tries to reassure us that he will.
Absolutely.
Do you believe it, Ben?
Well, I mean, I don't think everything turns out as dystopian as what the movies would have us believe. And, I think in today's day and age where we're so heavily surveilled and our online movements can be tracked quite easily, and especially because we make a lot of ourselves public.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we're living in a 1984 type world, dark type world at the moment, even though it's kind of that good and the bad thing. I don't think a lot of the fictional versions of these types of things account for the positive impact of this type of technology.
No, that's right, and I think that's very true. I'm really itching though to see Watson in real life talk. So I think that looked pretty cool.
Which I'm sure we're not that far away from.
Do you think he could hold a conversation like that? Because that really that would have passed. Watson and that guys would have passed Turing test. So
isn't that the hardest part of developing proper artificial intelligence? It's like they can get it 99.9% there, but that last 0.1%, which pushes it over the edge, is actually the hardest part to get to, because
that's right.
Because it's that. You could almost program it to within an inch of its life, so to speak. To have every possible reaction that you can think of, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's doing it for its own self, own desire to do it.
Well, the way to push AI is not to talk; it's to get the AI to talk about a topic, and then you ask questions, and usually you can poke a hole in them pretty easy.
It's a similar thing that you'd use on a fortune teller to see if they were actually working, wouldn't it?
Very similar. Very similar.
On IBM's website, I might just talk a little bit about what you were saying before about how it can go through the data. Their definition, IBM Watson is a technology platform that uses natural language processing and machine learning to reveal insights from large amounts of unstructured data.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that's actually a really good reason to develop it in today's world where so much information is generated. And you could see almost maybe even 20 years ago that it might not have had a role at that point, because even though we did generate a lot of information, it's nowhere near the scale and the size and the amount that we're pumping out now, because so many of us are generating online data. And it'd be impossible for anyone to track without a system like this.
Oh, exactly. And when I talk about the amount of data that Watson can process, 200 years of Melbourne Cup races is nothing.
Yeah.
Is nothing. Literally, it can process millions of transactions and find patterns in there. It's like very powerful, and it's interesting too because Microsoft have got Business Insights, I think it is, which is a similar platform or similar model, but I don't think it's anywhere near as comprehensive as Watson.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, this is huge. I mean, this is for someone who, you know, any industry or really data miner who collects millions and millions and millions of transactions and wants to pick patterns. It's really powerful stuff.
Well, just like when they say on their website, Watson analyzes unstructured data, and that 80% of all data today is unstructured. That's amazing, really. I mean, it's like you're having this tool. The only thing that I guess that's a little bit different in their rhetoric here on the website, at least, is that they're talking about it as a tool rather than an actual intelligence, and maybe that's where it is at the moment. It's more being geared towards that, and it might just be the way they're putting it across on their website now. Maybe not to freak people out, I guess.
I'll give you one insight. Uber didn't say how they knew, but you might have heard this week that they were exploiting users with low battery power, charging them more because they knew they were anxious and their phone would run out. So you can send them an Uber cab at maximum rate. I don't know if Watson or Microsoft's platform was behind it, but that's how you find that sort of data out.
I might bring up I always have to bring this up when it comes to data, is the privacy question. And just bringing back this the positive aspect of AI, the positive aspects of the fact that so much of our information is online, that this isn't as, I guess, this data mining type thing is not really as insidious, I guess, as what in certain applications is what it may appear to be. I mean, I know the conspiracy theorists can probably go out there and say that all sorts of nefarious characters can be up to no good, you know, on the established side or outsiders or whatnot, so they could be up to no good doing this sort of thing using tools like this. But there's so many positive applications to all this too. I can imagine that when you're trying to develop any sort of new technology, new system, if you want to, you could have a million different applications. Knowing how to zone a particular suburb, for instance, so that it's maximized for its potential based on the usage patterns of the people that are in there. I mean, that's just an example.
Yeah, everything from health, planning. You know, once upon a time we used to have a census every 5 years. Big data can find that sort of stuff, where to put hospitals, where the best, you know, use of services are. So there's a lot more positives than negatives. But the negative is if someone wants to get you, big data is one way to do it.
Yeah.
But you have to be paranoid or very deserving. At least you'd hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for me, I'm really interested in the whole, from this angle, the infrastructure part of it, that you could really shape, you know, the future world of society, etc., just based on the types of different types of planning you could do with it, rather than the old traditional thing of commissioning a study or something, or doing a random sampling of respondents to see what their views are or whatever. It's almost the potential that because there's so much more information it can draw from, that you know, with any sort of survey or trying to find that data, the more input you get, the better it is, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. And that's where we're going. As you say, I think there'll be more good to come over it than bad.
Yeah, and I'll just to finish, finally, I'll refer back to their website. It seems like at the moment they're promoting Watson for businesses, for developers, for universities, and for healthcare professionals at this stage. But I'm imagining they're going to want to expand it out to as many different areas as possible. Scientists will be another one, I'm sure.
Yeah, anyone can go and create a free account on Watson. So it's data driven, and I think anything under 500 meg of data is free. Now that's a lot of data. Yeah. So to analyze up to 500 meg before you need to pay.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's go and have a play with it if you like. Find some data online, load it in there, and it'll find all sorts of stuff for you.
And actually, that's really important that they've done that, isn't it? Make it available to anybody rather than just being, made exclusively for, I don't know, corporations or whatnot for their use.
You'll soon see if you load in under 500 meg of data or whatever it is, you'll soon see that you don't have enough data. You could have found all this stuff out yourself just using Excel, but it's very powerful, very impressive.
That's when you go. That's when you go back and pay the yearly subscription or whatever, just like everyone else in every other model.
That's right.
All right, Steve. We might wrap it up there. So thanks again for that. It's from floppy disks, nuclear codes, and Watson. It's all good out there at the moment. A good mixture of technologies. Still in 2016, after all.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show that, there's always going to be a long tail when it comes to legacy hardware, and there's always going to be something right out the front when it comes to innovation.
Absolutely. All right, so don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. Feel free to interact with us on Twitter, Google+, and Facebook. Love to hear from you. Go to our YouTube channel too and subscribe to us. You get all of our video versions of these podcasts. Obviously, we've got the RSS feed if you want to listen to us on your iPhone, probably through podcast apps and whatnot. And if anyone's interested in these weekly discussions that you come across or you think might be interested in it, just send them to our website. We'd greatly appreciate that. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.